This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, good afternoon, I can say to everyone. It is October the 28th, and this is the second of three informational presentations and question and answer sessions about the Seneca CARES Small Business Relief Grant Program. I'm excited to be here. My name is David Zach. I'm President and CEO of the Tiffin-Seneca Economic Partnership. I have one other significant partner in crime on this particular program. That's Audrey Flood. And we're all wearing multiple hats, so she will either join us later or she's working on processing grant paperwork as we speak. So kind of doing double duty there. But I want to welcome everybody who's on the call today. As you probably may have heard, we are very excited about this program, and we'll make sure to let everybody have an opportunity at the end to answer questions. So what I'm going to do is I just have some slides that I put together for you to kind of go over some of the basics of the program. And what we're going to do today is go over the program overview. We're going to talk about funding tiers, which is a big difference with the Tiffin CARES program. We're going to talk about the timeline for this particular program, and the application has opened up, so people are aware of that. And then what does it look like going into the future? What's going on with the Tiffin CARES program? And then where we're at with Seneca CARES in terms of the status. And then what's, in terms of eligible and ineligible businesses and eligible and ineligible expenses. And those are the two big dimensions. Does your business qualify as a business? And then do you have the expenses that allow this federal money to reimburse you for those, basically, since we're at the end of the year, although you could still be paying rent in November and that would count. So we'll talk all about that. And then, as I indicated before, questions and answers. So the important note you see at the top line of this, if you can see, those are on the phone, I'll read it for you. It's that this does not include Fostoria's program. So Fostoria also is getting county money, and if you are a business located in the city limits of Fostoria, please apply to fostoriaedc.org. But we also encourage those Fostoria businesses to also apply to this program. So if that program runs out of money, they fall into a tier to potentially get access to these funds as well. With that, I'm going to dive in. Okay, so what is this program? This is a grant program that is funded by the Coronavirus Act that was passed in March. And it allows us to help businesses. It's one of the authorized uses under that act, that governments can create a small business relief grant program, and the Seneca County Commissioners, as well as some of our local jurisdictions, are choosing to invest that money into this program and get that help to the businesses. Our role, we are the Tiffin-Seneca Economic Partnership. We are a 501c3 organization, and what we have done is develop this program. We benchmarked 6 programs around the state, and we created the original Tiffin CARES program. And then a month later, we developed this with a particular eye towards what the county commissioners wanted as well. And there are a lot of similarities. I would say many more similarities than differences. And we administer the program, which means we are the customer service. We are responsible for the online application portal. We're responsible for the experience. And we're working hard to try to make that as easy as possible, but still allow us to meet the federal audit requirements so that we're being responsible stewards of this money and doing what we need to do. So grants up to $10,000. If you're a business that has between 2 and 30 employees, we'll talk about what that means probably later, but I'll mention now, an employee is anybody working over 20 hours a week. It can also be a 1099 employee. And so that's how we kind of look at it. Also, if you're less than 2 employees, oftentimes you'll get that with sole proprietorships. You can get up to $5,000. So this is the amount you're potentially eligible for. You have to have enough expenses to be able to use that money, but that's what we're talking about. So another requirement in the program, very important, is that a business has to demonstrate. Oh, also, I'm sorry, I was moving it. Yep, a decline of at least 15%. And so whatever your particular revenue number is, we're looking at either gross receipts sales if you're a for-profit business, or we're looking at total income. And if you're filling out a 990, I believe it's whatever line number 7, I can't remember what that is, but what is all the income you're taking in. And what you have to do is you have to show 15%. Now, the way we do this, and it's really about 15% due to coronavirus. So the way we're handling it in order to be able to help a business show that is you have to pick two comparable periods, one from 2019 and one from 2020. They have to be the same period. We've made an exception for businesses that are particularly seasonal in nature, but I would say 98%, 99% of all the applications we've processed are looking to find that those comparable programs. Now, the quote unquote, what I would say official start of the coronavirus in terms of like when we start, the federal CARES Act is March 15th. So we, if you want to go for March 15th to like, let's say end of May, right? Big period, lots of closures. If you can get the accounting numbers for that, that works. So you would do that 2019 versus 2020. If you want to do, January 1 through June 30th, and make that comparison. We've offered that as an option. Or if you want to do year to date. So whenever you apply, say our year to date is X, and in 2019 it was this. Fundamentally, if you can come up with a 3-month or longer period that works, we will accept it and we just want to make sure it's apples to apples, and you have to demonstrate a 15% decline. It has to be 15% less in 2020 than it was in 2019. Then we get to what's a small business. This is a small business relief grant program. Our definition is both in terms of employees and sales. So it says 2 to 30 employees there, but it's 1 to 30 employees. It's anybody 30 employees and under, and sales. So there are, or revenue number restrictions. So we have $50,000. You have to be making 50, and that should be 15. So I believe that's a mistake. I believe it's $15,000. It should be in the program guidelines. I'm going to look it up. We're an informal group. Let me double check the guidelines because I think that's just a PowerPoint error. I'm going to double, triple check this. It is $15,000. So if your revenue is more than $15,000 in 2019, then you're eligible for this program. The reason is we don't want, if someone's selling Norwex or selling Tupperware, those are valuable, viable businesses, but that's not what this is designed to support. This is designed to support it when it's a major part of the income. And if you're above $2 million, then you're larger than this program is designed to help. So again, people making over $2 million or nonprofits bringing in over $2 million, you're valid, wonderful organizations. That's just not the target of this program. And so when we talk about eligibility, non-eligibility, it's all about, these are policy decisions that have been made to try to, focus these dollars because you can't help everybody with as much as you would like. So talked about small businesses, eligible businesses, and then eligible expenses. So this is the date. We'll talk more about what kind of specific things are eligible, but from the expenses that you're going to get reimbursed or paid for out of this grant are going to have to be incurred between March 15th, the kind of official start of the coronavirus for purposes of this money, and December 15th. So that span of time, any expenses before March 15th aren't eligible, and any expenses after December 15th are not eligible to be covered. Next thing is want to talk about the online application. So there is an online application. It is open right now. If you go to senecacares.com, there's a black button that says application opens on the 28th of October. You just click on that button. That'll take you to a portal where you register, which allows you to save the application, and then they'll have an option of 2 programs, only one of which you can actually apply. Tiffin CARES program is there, but it's not open. Obviously, Seneca CARES is, so you would click on that and fill out that application. Electronic disbursement. So when you get the grant agreement and fill out let's just say you're awarded funds, first you're declared eligible for funding. So we take all the applications. This is not a first come, first serve program. Everybody that gets their applications in by the 9th of November by 5 o'clock are equally valid. And so what happens is we declare applications eligible for funding, and then we look and see, once that's done and we see how much funding we have, we award funding. So it is possible that someone could be award funding but not get the funding because there's just not enough available. And we'll talk about how the tiers work in a second, and what happens if in a particular tier there's enough money, but there is some money. So we'll talk about that. But my point is, you're going to be filling out with your grant application an ACH form, automatic clearinghouse. You get it transferred into the checking banking account of your choice. We're not messing with paper checks, so you get the funds electronically. It's important to note that this is an advance grant, so it's not a reimbursement grant. So you are getting the money up front. You're attesting that you have all these eligible expenses. You sign a grant agreement before you get the money, which says, this is all true and I will do all this, or you can come get the money from me. You can prosecute me or whatever. I don't think we'll have to have that, but basically it allows you to get the money in your hands now. And part of the reason for that is to try to help businesses as much as possible, as soon as possible, so we don't have to wait a couple of months. We want to get the money into businesses' hands. And then businesses are required 120 days after that money is dispersed. They have 120 days to provide the documentation of what expenses are getting covered. And that's called the closeout report. That will also be online. So the grant, getting the grant agreement, that's going to be uploaded online, and the closeout reports are all going to be online in year one account. It's going to hopefully be clean, neat, and easy. We keep working on it and solving kind of issues as we go along, but it's working pretty well so far. Okay, so here's a big difference with the Tiffin CARES program. So the way Seneca CARES is set up is it has what we call funding tiers, which means that everybody who's eligible in tier 1 gets funded first, and then it goes down the chain. So the county has put $300,000 in it, plus, and the commissioners just kind of announced it, or at least officially. We put it in the program guidelines, but they talked today on a number of the Hopewell Township, Clinton Township, Eden Township, Bloom Township, and Village of Bettsville are putting in dedicated CARES money as well, and their businesses get first crack at that money. So, Clinton Township is putting in $80,000 of additional funds, which I think is about the right number. Some are putting in 20, 25. So there's going to be more than $100,000, I think, estimate between 100, $200,000 in additional funds that'll be available in addition to the 300. But in that first tier, rural Seneca County, so non-Tiffin businesses, non-Fostoria businesses, the for-profit businesses are going to be in rural Seneca County, get first crack, plus all those folks and the nonprofits in rural Seneca County. All those folks get access to this money. And so what happens is all the eligible applications get funded, and then it goes down to the next tier, which are Tiffin nonprofits. And then, so we encourage everybody to apply, because interesting things happen when there's more demand. Sometimes more funds can be found. So please don't assume you're not going to be able to get funding no matter what tier this is in. We try to make the application as relatively painless as possible. So please do that. So Tiffin nonprofits will be eligible in tier 2. Then in tier 3, Tiffin CARES, the for-profits prior applicants. So if a Tiffin company has been awarded, let's say $6,000, because the cap on Tiffin program was $6,000, they're eligible for up to $4,000 of additional funding under this program if the funding's available. And if Fostoria's program runs out of money, those businesses will also be in this tier. And then last but certainly not least, if there are Tiffin folks that missed the first round and there's anything left, we'd be happy to support them as well. So that's kind of the funding tiers, how it works. If, for example, let's say we get through tier 1, we fund all the rural Seneca County businesses. We get to tier 2, we fund all the Tiffin nonprofits, and then we get to tier 3, where it's the Tiffin CARES awards, the ones who've been awarded money, and let's say no Fostoria businesses happen to apply. And let's say let's say there are 30 applications for an additional $4,000, and they're all eligible, and that's 120,000. There's only 60,000 left. One of two things is going to happen. Either additional funding will be found and those will be funded, or if we can't find any additional funding from other sources, this is a dynamic situation, then what'll happen is we will do lottery. So it's we'll put numbers in a hat, and proverbial speaking, and then we will just award as we can. So that's how the funding tiers work, and the lottery if we need to employ it. Okay, here's the Seneca CARES timeline. We are in today at the end of November or October. Gosh, time flies when you're having fun. So yesterday was the 28th, and we moved it up. So we had originally talked about it being in October. You see, this is an older slide, but we moved it up to try to allow for more time for people to apply. because we were able to get the application system up and running a little bit sooner. So it will still go through the 9th, so a little bit longer than we originally had, but it'll still go through November the 9th. So it opened yesterday at noon, closes 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on the 9th. If we already know, something I want to say that's important. So if you start an application and it's in process and you're trying to figure stuff out, or you don't have that one form, you're not going to get kicked out of our system, but you have to have started working on your application by the time the period closes. So we'll allow no new applications. So you want to have your application going, and then there'll be a cutoff for, and sometimes it's judged based on what's going on, but we will work with you. So we reach out to people. I know some of these people are on the phone. I see Sharon and Donna, who've been involved before. We reach out and tell you what's wrong with your application, and we work with you. I think in the case of Sharon, we'll scan it. We've uploaded stuff. We try to do whatever we can to make it happen. We're trying to make people eligible. We're not trying to find reasons to make people ineligible. We'll get, so I think that's an important thing to say. And then, we'll try to get the grant agreement signed by the end of November, because on the 19th we'll make awards. So making awards means we've declared, see who's eligible, and we know what money we got, and then we actually let the people know who are getting money by the 19th. And the 30th, again, we'll it's a target date to get grant agreement signed, and then we're trying to do it within 10 days of putting the ACH request in to get it. We do have limits up to $60,000 per day, but again, these are target dates, but it gives everybody an idea what we're going for and how it's going to run. So we are looking to get the funds out by December the 10th. Now, we have committed to get the funds back to the county by the 15th. So we need to get those funds back, so that they can, if there isn't, if it's not all taken, then what we have to do, they're going to use it for other purposes. So pay sheriff's salaries, for example. So they want to make sure none of this money goes to waste, and it's making the biggest impact. They've made a strategic policy decision to invest this money to try to help the businesses. We applaud them for it. We applaud the other local jurisdictions, in addition to the county commissioners, that are doing this. So Tiffin kind of led the way, and the county commissioners followed suit. So we're thrilled with it. We think they have a great approach. And then, target date, it's actually 120 days from when you get the money, but on or around somewhere in the time of April, you would need to supply all your documentation, and we'll be following up with people as well. So Tiffin program, 69 applications. So we have, in this slide, it says 46 awarded funding, 15 being reviewed and cured. This was from a couple earlier presentations. We have 59 applications that have been awarded funding, that have been cured. We have like 2 or 3 we're still working on, and it's been a couple weeks after, because again, anything we can do to prevent them from having an issue, we want to do. So we anticipate there's about 360,000 that's going to get distributed through that program. So similar to the county program in terms of the amount of money. Application period is closed, and we sent out grant agreements late Friday, kind of template agreements, and we're working with everybody to try to do that. We're also working on some back-end system issues to make it as easy as possible to process, review those grant agreements, and get the money out. Okay, Seneca CARES status. We talked about this. Pre-launch was last Friday, and we opened the application period again October 28th, and it closes on the 9th. So the program's up and running, it's cranking. Okay, now we're going to get into the eligibility, which is kind of the last part of this. So first you have to decide whether you're an eligible business. When you go through the application process, this is a little bit different from people who did the Tiffin CARES process. There'll be a first section that opens up, and then you're going to go through the eligibility criteria so that you don't have to fill out the rest of the application if you know you're not going to be eligible. And then you can contact us if you have any questions. But so for eligible businesses, this is a big difference with the Tiffin program. Nonprofits are eligible, right? So Seneca County Commissioners wanted to ensure that they can support Tiffin, Fostoria, and rural Seneca County nonprofits. They want to do that. Federal tax ID number. So you have to have a federal tax ID number. All jurisdictions. So again, we've given you the funding tiers and how the money is going to be distributed, but we encourage all jurisdictions to apply. You have to have a storefront or an eligible home office as defined by the Internal Revenue Service of the United States of America. And you can go to the program guidelines, and there's a click if you don't know what an eligible home office is. You have to be the business. So this is an interesting point. So the business has to be established prior to January 1, 2019. So there have been some interesting situations. One, if the business was established somewhere else and relocated to Seneca County, so it was established, let's say, in 2017 and then was relocated in March of 2019, is that eligible? The answer is yes. This requirement is not about how long you've been in the county. It's about making sure the business is viable on its own merits, so that, like, it survived the first year before coronavirus hit. It was surviving, it was thriving, it was doing its thing. And so it's just a little bit of a, not that businesses that started up in September of 2019 aren't valid, great businesses, but this program, again, and having to make difficult decisions, wanted to make sure the money was first getting the ones that had kind of survived that first year of business ownership. So that's what that's about. And then at the time of application, you can't be closed, right? So obviously every business has had the opportunity to get up and running. So if you're like, you've closed the business because of coronavirus and you haven't reopened it, you can't apply to get money in this program. So this is trying to support ongoing concerns that are operational, that are up and running. Legal form. So we've had some questions on this. If, for example, I'm a professional hairstylist and I'm a 1099 employee, and I kind of get my income that way, you are not an eligible business under this program. You are a 1099, you are an employee of that other business. So you either have to be an S corp, a C corp, a limited liability company, a partnership, a limited partnership, or a or sole proprietorship. So it has to be one of those forms. If you're not, then you're not eligible. Again, could be very valid what you do, but not under this program. Can't be in bankruptcy or receivership. So you can't have those issues. We've already talked about the 15% decline in revenue. And if you have business interruption insurance, like you're getting paid because of what coronavirus did to your business and you're getting insurance to cover all that, this program isn't designed to help you. It's designed to help those people that didn't have that in place. So those are kind of what you got to do to be eligible. Ineligible businesses. So there are some specific businesses that are legal but not funded because of policy considerations under this program. Again, you can't help everybody. So any business who has the following as their primary industry. So for example, if I'm a larger retailer and I have tobacco and cigarettes as part of what I do, that doesn't make you ineligible. It's if you're primarily focused, you're a vape shop, under this, you're not eligible. So adult-oriented businesses primarily not eligible. Tobacco, cigarettes, electronic smoking, vaping, not eligible. Financial institutions, savings and loans, credit unions, banks, not eligible. Franchises are eligible, but if they are not locally owned and they're not independently operated, like they're a corporation franchise, or a branch business or retail shop, we're not interested. For example, we have I know in Tiffin, for example, a Subway franchise that's locally owned and independently operated. They have both different franchises. Janet Molyneux, great person. That's eligible under the programs. But if you're not locally owned and independently operated, you're not eligible. If you're an entertainment device or skill game type business, you're not eligible under this program. Again, you're legal but not eligible to receive these funds. If you have an Airbnb business, that's not eligible. Or you're an Uber driver, that's not eligible. So what we call independent contractors on gig platforms, these businesses aren't eligible to be funded through this program. And then lastly, real estate focused businesses. For example, if you have a commercial property and people are leasing from you, the intent of this program is that we're going to help those people so they can pay you rent. And that's how you get supported through the program. We pay the people that are paying you. So if you have commercial real estate, residential real estate, rental business, you're a real estate pass-through entity, or you're a holding company or a real estate investment trust. Again, all great businesses needed in our economy, not what this program is designed to fund. Okay, eligible expenses. This is exactly the same as the Tiffin program. And the reason it's exactly the same is because these aren't locally determined decisions. These are the federal requirements under the CARES Act. Mortgage payments, rents, and lease are eligible. Can't be your permanent residence. So if it's your house mortgage payment and that's where you live and you also operate your business, you can't use that as an eligible expense under this program. It doesn't mean you're an ineligible business. You just can't get that particular expense covered. Utility payments, eligible. Vehicle and equipment lease and payments are eligible as long as that vehicle and that equipment was purchased before March 15th, 2020. So in other words, if coronavirus hits and you go buy, you being the business, the applicant, buys a piece of equipment then those aren't covered because you made the decision after coronavirus. The exception is, PPE, I'm going to skip down, salary and wages of employees eligible, PPE and other COVID-19 expenses. So I'm going to say construction is not, because it's gray when we talk with the state. So if you had to make construction changes because of COVID, you installed walls, you did plexiglass, those kind of things are not eligible. But PPE and other COVID-19 expenses that are not construction are related. Salaries and wages of employees, I already talked about. Interruption related costs, for example, you have a supplier and that supplier had to be shut down and you couldn't get what you needed and therefore you lost business, or you needed something and something of yours didn't run and it broke because it needs to run all the time, like a piece of equipment. Again, if there are any of those that you can demonstrate, those interruption related costs are eligible. And then if you are a sole proprietor, you are eligible for 1/6 of your income in 2019. And again, just to reemphasize, they have to be incurred or paid on or after March 15th and on or before December the 15th of this year. Okay, rounding third base and coming home. Ineligible expenses, already talked about the vehicles and equipment, can't be purchased after this kind of coronavirus date of March 15th. Any personal non-business expenses, really anything that's not listed before is ineligible, but just for sake of clarity, you want to highlight that these following expenses are ineligible. I talked about construction costs already. Taxes, licensing, fees to a government entity, also not eligible under this program. Any marketing, insurance, or advertising. So let's say you had to spend more on Facebook boosts because you were trying to up your social media in the midst of coronavirus because you had to kind of tag. That's a great business expense. It's just not covered under this program. And expenses covered by another program, including but not limited to Tiffin CARES. So if you're applying this program and getting Tiffin CARES money, you can't say, hey, I got July rent, you can't double dip. If you're getting it covered by the Forgivable Paycheck Protection Program loan from the feds or the Economic Injury Disaster loan, you can't cover the same stuff. And we've had rulings from the SBA. We've talked to the SBA and they have the same view. But if you are receiving a paycheck protection loan, there's no problem. That's not a problem that you receive paycheck protection. You could get paycheck protection loan, economic injury disaster loan, and Tiffin CARES. As long as it doesn't cover the same stuff and you're eligible under this program, you can apply and get funding under this program. And this is not a scored application. It's not like who is the most worthy or who, so none of that's considered. Everybody's on an equal playing field, but just want to make sure that it's the expenses that are ineligible if they're covered by another program, but it doesn't make the business ineligible. And furthermore, you can cover the same types of expenses. So this is a question that comes up. There is a frequently asked questions section on the Seneca CARES site, which already has some of the questions that people ask. I'm behind on getting at least 2 to 3 answers up there, but I think there's 14 specific, scenario kinds of questions you get answers on. But if you just want to cover mortgage payments, you got PPP for 4 months of mortgage payments, and then you're going to use this for 2 or 3 months of mortgage payments. As long as that's fine. You can cover the same kinds of expenses, no problem there, just as long as the receipts that you're submitting and the bills and the proof of payment, it's not the same expense. So just want to emphasize that. So again, my partner in crime, Audrey, is working on other stuff, working on the grant because we got 2 programs running at the same time. So with that, I'm going to take a breath, get a schluck of my coffee, and answer any questions that anybody has. Okay, so one thing I will say, because it's kind of silent, we try to make it as clear as possible. There is an email address for questions. So on our website, on the Seneca CARES website, you will see Audrey's and my cell phone number. You will see our email address, and we're not creating there's a separate email address for Seneca CARES. It's Seneca CARES at Tiffin-Seneca.org. That's also at the SenecaCares.com website. It's listed there. So if you can't write it down or you're driving or whatever, Seneca CARES at Tiffin-Seneca.org. The reason why we recommend you send it to that is because we always check that. We have so many hundreds of emails coming in a day sometimes. I'm not even exaggerating. We always make sure to try to get those first. So we make sure to don't miss it. We both access that account. So if I'm not seeing it, Audrey's not seeing it, we try to respond within a business day. We haven't had 100% rate on that, but we try to get pretty close. But of course, if you call us and we can pick up the phone, we'll do that too. You're not going to violate some rule or taboo. We just want to make sure you get good service. And if you put it in writing, then we can put it on the frequently asked questions page as well, so other people can benefit from the answer that Audrey or I are going to give. So that's another reason that if you have a question, it's great to go there. So with that, I will see if there are any other additional questions. And if not, I'll end, and feel free to reach out to us via the email. And again, if we are able to answer the phone, we're happy to do that too. Appreciate everybody being on today.
Thank you so much.
Our pleasure. Beth, Ed, Sharon, Donna, any questions?
Hear me?
Yep, Sharon.
Okay. Anyways, I'm multitasking. I'm doing payroll. Anyway, so no, I'm done.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, I would say for you and Donna, and we've already had a lot of Tiffin CARES people put in because it's the same information in the same forms. So we see that you're cracking it out, but great. Okay, Beth Deach is good. Thanks, Beth. Hi, Ed.
Yeah, I had a question about paying the rent for the business.
Hmm?
I paid the rent in every month out of my, out of receipts and things. Can I count that rent as an expense under this program, even though I've already paid it?
Yes, so great question. So it absolutely can go back retroactive. So anything that you've paid after March 15th that you aren't getting covered by another program is eligible. Every single business rent payment that you've made, April, May, June, July, September, is eligible. So yes, we would expect, especially as we're at the end of the year, that most everybody's going to submit stuff they've already paid.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I had another question about how to check with the state and local and federal about any obligations that are not satisfied. How you check that, and whether you give time to get those paid if there are obligations.
That's a really good question. I know if you're interested in doing that, because people have to attest to that, right? So we are not doing an FBI background check, but you could. One thing that you can do is go try to apply to get a certificate of good standing with the state. And if they give you one, that means you're kind of clear on the state level. As far as locally, that's a good question. I mean, I would, I don't know what other expenses you would have besides city taxes. And so if you're filing your taxes and the city hasn't sent you something, but you could call their income tax office if you really wanted to double check. And as far as the federal, there are multiple federal agencies, but like, for example, if you don't own the property, you're probably not going to have environmental protection issues. And, as far as the federals with the IRS, you know what you're paying. So what I would say is, if you really want to go the extra mile to give yourself kind of peace of mind and comfort, work on, and if you send me an email, I can send you a link if you can't just Google it and find it, how to do that. And I don't know, Ed, if there's a little fee associated with that. I don't know if that's the case, but I can send you a link to that. But again, I think that's a good question. I haven't been asked that before. So that's what I would say. It's mostly people who've gotten penalties, like have outstanding environmental penalties, tend to know it. But if you want to, check with the state, again, certificate of good standing. If you want to check with the city of Tiffin, with the income tax folks and the feds, I would say if you're not messing with the EPA, it's primarily related to taxes.
As far as business goes, is there, and there's also a personal side where the owners of the business, do you have to answer the same questions for the owners?
Nope. This isn't a loan. So that's a great question. I'm going to try to remember things, but no, none of the questions relate to you as an individual, or the partners. For example, let's say it's a partnership. No, it's all about the business itself. And so is the business, up to, have any outstanding tax obligations, those kind of things. Nothing is asked about the individual, whether it's a sole proprietorship or a partnership. So another great question.
That's all my questions. Thank you.
Okay, fantastic questions. Anybody have anything else? Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Wish everybody the best of luck. And of course, reach out if you have additional questions or difficulty when you're filling out the application. The great thing is it saves, which is why you register, so you can fill out everything. If you have one question, get back to us and let us know. Okay, thanks, Mimi. Thanks, Donna. Thanks, Ed. Take care. Bye-bye.